Hello and welcome back to Pit Pass Podcast with me, Danny Bauer.
Me, AJ Davis, and today we have Mr. Stockscoms himself, Mathew Whitaker.
Thanks for having me.
Woo! I don't need to do that more.
You can do that. We do have an audience in the background today. Fantastic, sir. Oval racing. Now, you are not a racer, are you?
No.
You're one of the main man behind the scenes, and especially starting the races.
I don't know if I don't know if I deserve that quality. No, I'm not somebody. Well, I'm not somebody who you will find in a car necessarily for racing reasons. I'm normally in them trying to keep people right and safe. That's my main role. So for Speedway, I'm clerk of the course, start marshal on the most part, and then on the odd occasion I'll steward and do various things in the background with at Northampton with the track maintenance and various things like that. So I work on the other side. You guys do the racing, we do the looking after you guys and stuff.
Well, racing's a bit of a stretch for us, isn't it, Dan?
Yeah, sometimes.
When you said clerk of the course, because I know when we had Alan here, you said quite a few buzzwords. So what is a clerk of a course?
So the clerk of the course is your most senior on-track official. We look after you guys, all the guys in the infrastructure around. So anything within the catch fencing comes under our responsibility. We're the people that make sure the tracks are safe for you guys to race on. We're the people that also make sure that the equipment's right. So ultimately, if something does go wrong, we're there to help you guys out. If you fire extinguishers, if it goes really wrong, we're the guys that will ultimately be getting you safe out of the car alongside the paramedics we have as well. It's quite a senior role. A lot goes into it. It's not as easy and straightforward as just standing there and waving some flags or standing there looking pretty on the infield. There's quite a bit to it, and what you see during the race meeting versus what goes on beforehand, which you guys have seen a little bit of that, is it's all comprised into lots of different little bits.
Yeah. So was it like an easy progression from? Because I don't know how you started. Did you start as just a flag marshal?
Yeah. So my journey started a bit further back from that. So we used to go. Obviously, from the podcast, I'm a northerner like you, no northern contingency. The way I started out was I was a fan. I'm exactly, and I still am a fan today. That's the best bit about our job. My background was that we used to go to Sheffield, Bellevue, the odd Skegness meeting when we were that way, and things like that. And then from a very early age, I was never sort of interested in the racing. I was always interested in the stuff going on behind the scenes, but never envisaged myself as a start marshal. That was the weird thing. There's a sort of a good background story with it. My dad used to be a referee, and what he used to do, it was in the days when you used to have just the red and yellow flags, and he found them one day. We were just clearing the shed out, and we've just put some sticks on the end of them, and we started taking them to race meetings. So I was just running up and down the terracing like a lunatic. That was how I started out with it. Me and my dad reckon we might have been the first people to do it, because slowly and over time now, more and more people, we've now got like the youngsters. It's where Matthew Goring and James Sheard started out. So I remember those two guys turning up, fully gowned up in all the whites and everything like that. So, they were the professionals. I was still around like a lunatic. I was quite young. So that's how I got into the racing side. The marshalling side started out with going and doing circuits. So me and a friend signed up at the Autosport NEC show. And we went, we were just waiting to go into the Autosport, main action arena. It was the bit what we would have to go watch. And there was just a sign-up place there. So me and my mate went, God, it'd be a good laugh. Both liked, he liked to kick his cars and bikes. I was solely into cars. So we signed up. And 3 months later, the recruitment officer for the North East gave us a phone call. Do you fancy going to Cadwell Park for a taste today? And we did. And never really looked back from there. So I did a few years on the circuits, which was great fun. But I always had the love for stock cars. So I reached out to Steve Rees, or as it was then, Star Tracks, sent him an email. And if Steve watches this podcast, he never responded to the first email. Steve never did. And about a month later or so, I messaged again because we'd been to a meeting, me and my dad had been, and noticed how short of officials they actually were. So I said, I'll send him another email. And in sending another email, he replied back and said, yeah, no problem. Next meeting's at Bellevue. Asked for a guy called Baz Watson. And he was, at the time, general manager. Of course, now he's in stocks carts, isn't he? Yeah, he's in the stocks carts, his lad and family race. His missus was clerk of the course, and that's how I got my start into it. So I started on the outside at Bellevue as just as a normal, regular safety marshal, as we are called now. And then through, I think I did 5 years with Star Tracks, and from there I progressed. You know, it's not a case of you turn up and you jump straight into a job. There's a bit more to it. So you learn. I've been very lucky that people have always been good to teach me stuff. And when I was with Star Tracks, it was Carol, Matt Goring, quite a few people spent the time in training me to be a clerk of the course. And that sort of was the initial path I took, and start marshalling sort of tucked itself back in a bit later on. But that's how I got to starting and getting involved with it. So,
see, that's quite interesting, because a lot of people they obviously go to racing to see the racing and they want to be like, I want to be in the car. I want to race, and it's good to see that people are on the other side of the fence, where like, you know, I want to be on that side of it all. I want to be the start marshal. I want to be the flag marshal, because without you guys, obviously, whether it's circuit, stock car, or anywhere, without the background people, it simply won't happen.
Yeah.
And it's good to see that there's people out there with the passion to want to do it, not just be like, oh, well, they're short on staff, you know, we've got to keep it going. Someone better do it, or go on, I might as well do it. It's good to see people like, I want to do that.
I think that's the thing about what we do. It's not easy to find people that will essentially stand on the dangerous side of the fence. And you guys know that from racing. We know it a little bit closer maybe as officials, and any officials had a near miss, whether regardless or not, it is nature of the sport. But I always, when I first stepped on the other side of the catch fencing, it was a little bit like, there's nothing now. That's it. There's a catch fence, the speedway fence, and then it's you.
Yeah.
Or when we had Stoke, it was even less than that. It was a barrier, and then it was you, essentially. But no, like I say, for me, one of the background things were that because of my dad's work, we never had time. We had the garage and we had the space, but we just never had the time to spend around a car. Whereas us as fans, we would go to, there weren't many meetings because there was a lot of tracks up here, talking 20 years ago. There was a lot of tracks up here, so you could get up here and you can watch, you know, the likes of Sheffield run quite regular. Bellevue was pretty much every Sunday or Bank Holiday Monday. Skegness, obviously, with the summer meetings, it used to, well, still does run. We used to capture odd meetings. You know, we went to Yarmouth with my grandparents. Again, they was sort of big fans of it. Not necessarily much as when I was around, but so we used to go to Yarmouth and things like that as well. So it was always interesting, always good fun. But it was just having the time to do it. So,
yeah. So with you being involved in the stock car racing, what took you interest in what took your first initial interest in it all? Did you go somewhere with your dad, or did you just see some of the cars? And
my first ever meeting was Bradford. My first memories of, well, apparently there's obviously meetings I've done before that, but my first memories was Bradford. And I don't know what the meeting was. My dad seems to think it was some sort of world final. And we're talking about Bradford with no south stand. So as you stand on the terraces now where you've got the south stand, that wasn't there. And I believe it was still open-ended as well on the bends, and they only used to have a run one formula. And they was running super trucks on the track. They had 2 super trucks, and I just have this memory of these 2 giant tractor units going round the track sideways, drifting. And I'm thinking, this is fantastic. But also then you had the likes of, you know, the Formula Ones and various things like that. They were slower, but they was louder then. There was more of a presence with them. And that's what I remember. That was where my initial sort of thing was about it, was about, you know, going and enjoying these meetings. And like I say, it was just a hobby. It was a hobby that we enjoyed.
yeah.
So,
No, wicked. I mean, it's a lot different for us guys, because it sounds like you've had some generations in, you know, we dad he's been involved with racing.
Yeah.
We've not really had that. So Danny Boy did karting, I did ice hockey.
yeah.
But it's good to see that, like, the generational things is passed down.
Yeah.
And I bet it's wicked as well, because we were saying that when you see all the young kids nowadays, you know, running about waving the flags, is there sort of a nice little element where you can go, that might have stemmed from us?
Yeah, I think the problem that we have is I remember being a fan, and health and safety has obviously come on a lot over the last few years. Health and safety has come up something chronic. And I remember youngsters used to be picked up by the start marshals. They'd stick them on for the rolling lap and let them wave the green flag, and then it was literally exit stage left straight off as soon as it really kicked off. Yeah. We can't do that now. We don't have that facility to do it because, unfortunately, the world with health and safety and stuff, it's just not worth the risk. So the opportunities to see the youngsters, and there is a few of them, you know, when we've got one at Northampton who comes and regularly gets Bedford dog commentary with us, you know, the guys are always, obviously, the commentators are an impartial part when you're on the rostrum more so, and the number of times that the commentator will throw a comment out because it's just easy, you know, and watching these youngsters, you know, with a full set of flags, full set of boards, I never had that. I just had my red and yellow, and I think I eventually got myself a green and a checkered at some point. But from there, it was, for me, like there was a bit of a gap. But to go back into something that you enjoy, because it doesn't go away, you know, there's something very unique about stock car racing. There's a buzz to it. It's a very, very unique buzz. And it just adds to it. And like I say, I see the buzz what you guys get. I've jumped, and I can't say I've never raced a car. I've not raced. I've been in a car. I've been in a V8. Was it a V8? It was a V8 stock car, wasn't it? Like a hot stock. Yeah. And I've done that at Swaffham. I went out for 10 laps, and I can see why you guys get the buzz. I genuinely can see it. But I can get that buzz from not necessarily driving around in circles. Standing there and watch you do it instead.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's quite good.
So you've been the start marshal quite a few times. There'll have been some wicked races you've started.
Yeah.
What would you say up there is one of your most like memorable, prestigious races that you've had the sort of the honour to start?
I think the one thing for me, I'm quite old school in terms of for me to do it, I still sort of look back on the guys and girls that are maybe not doing it anymore or no longer with us. And I still not take it for granted, but I sort of look at it and I think to myself, I'm getting to do it, sort of thing. And I carry that in anything that I do with anything with the racing really, because I think it's a very unique club to be in. For me, highlights as a start marshal probably would be my National Banger World Final I did. There was a couple of reasons for that. I think first and foremost, it was my first one. I always remember the conversation, and I will mention these guys, Alex and Dean, because without them, I wouldn't have done half the things I've done within Speedworth, definitely. I remember Alex telling me I was going to do it, and I sort of said, yeah, all right, not ever. And he looked at me dead serious, and he went, no, it's your world final. And it's changed now. We now tend to have 2 for your majors, but I was on my own for this one. So you have, when you say 7 races, it doesn't sound a lot, but when you think it's 7 races of national bangers and it can go either way, whether it's going to be a rod race or absolute total carnage, you don't know. But no, the other thing it was significant was that year we lost Ray Wood, who was one of Speedworth's leading lights as a start marshal. And I had a very interesting interaction with him that year because I'd also done the Formula 2 British at Aldershot, which was the first time Formula 2s had ever raced at Aldershot. And at the end of the meeting, Ray come up to me and he wasn't digging at any other start marshal, but he turned around and said, it's the first time I've seen somebody up on that rostrum for a little while who actually smiled for all the races, put some serious effort in, and actually you look like you've had a good day of it. Yeah. And it means a lot to hear that from people what didn't have what we've got. What we've got now, we're lucky. You know, the guys back then, they didn't. I think they just had a commentary. They didn't have a radio, so the commentator would be calling it all across for them. So unfortunately, we lost Ray before that world final, and I always remember traditionally that the start marshals, you'll see that we wear white, but back then it was white shirts and a dicky bow tie. That was what they used to wear. And I remember in the week building up to it, and I turned around to Alex and said, I want to do this for Ray. And we managed to get James and Adam into dicky bow ties on the back of the pace cars as well as myself to do it. And it was a nice moment that Alex, as we were getting sorted, rushing behind the scenes for the big race, and he went, you really thought about this, didn't you? And I went, but I'm lucky to do it. There isn't many people that can turn around and say they've started the National Banger Championship of the World for Speedworth. There isn't many can do it. And yeah, I mean, the racing itself wasn't the most spectacular, but the fact that I was there and I did it, it's a huge achievement. I've got loads of moments to take away. National Championship for the National Hot Rods in last year. You know, never ever thought I'd be able to do 75 laps on the rostrum at how I bounce around, but James, Dean, a number of people behind the scenes who supported me and give me the opportunity to do it. And don't get me wrong, it takes it out of you, but the fact I managed to do it, that it's a privilege to be asked. It's a privilege to be asked to do it. I think that's the main part.
It's good as well because with the racing, you get memorial races, don't you? So there'll be a driver or a mechanic or someone involved in that formula that obviously passed away, and they'll do a memorial race for it. So when you've got a start that's passed away and doing little stuff like having your dicky bows, for us guys, we might see that and think, oh, maybe they're doing something a little bit more classy. But when there's more of a meaning behind it, I think stuff like that should be more common. It should be like, doing it for one meeting, fantastic. Do it for the full year.
Well, you'll notice now with Inca Race, we've had a slight change in how we run the meetings, and now you'll notice the staff are more coordinated, and that again comes from that tradition of just being a little bit more organised. Speedwith are the same, so a lot of Speedwith meetings we try and coordinate as best as we can between the staff that's available, because we are going through that change now. We are starting to go through the change of officials that, we'll say the younger ones, which are now breaking into the sport, whether they've broken in from being on the wall or whether they've raced and then switching. We have got guys which have switched teams essentially, and they've had the racing career. They've had great fun doing it, but now they want to take the heat off essentially, and they want to have a bit more of an easier life. We have that, and that change of guard is coming through now. So you can see the youngsters, they've got different ways of doing it. They're a little bit quicker on the roster. I mean, I look back at meetings when I started out, and I'm so much quicker then than I am now, but I still enjoy it. And that's the thing what keeps me going is I enjoy it. And that's why I keep, that's why we do the meetings. It's why you try and do as many different things. I'm not somebody who's savvy on formulas either. It doesn't matter whether it's you guys racing, it could be anything. Micro Formula 2s, Ninja Karts, doesn't matter. As long as it's going round in a circle and it's entertaining racing, I'm sold. That'll do for me. I'm there.
Yeah.
With you saying then, you obviously started out on the Benz as like just a flag marshal. How do you progress in it then? Do you have to do certain courses within Speedwith and stuff to get a higher grade, or do you just sort of learn it all on the job as you're going through it?
There's not a lot that can prepare you, to be honest. When I started out, it was purely just being inquisitive that I made the move from the wall onto the infields. Traditionally, there's a structure there now which allows you to go from the wall to the infield, because the skill set you need on the wall is slightly different to the infield. And as you could appreciate, on the outside, you've got a nice protective fence, and you've probably got a little bit more equipment available, and you've not got a bigger area to cover, depending on the track setup. When you go onto the infield, you haven't necessarily got that protective barrier. You're a little bit more exposed. And depending on the venues you work at, and every venue is different, you've got that element of, right, you've got to be a bit more switched on. And even when I moved from Star Tracks to Speedwith, I went to Mildenhall. The concept of being on a nice high infield at Bellevue, where you had a nice tyre wall sort of lifting you up, where you'd be very lucky if something would get you, to Mildenhall, where they can climb up that infield and they can chase you across the infield, and I have been chased across that infield.
And there was that 2-litre saloon at Mildenhall that went over the wall and the fence.
Yeah, we've had that. I mean, I think one of my best saves was at Mildenhall. Kimberly, who was one of the photographers, I don't know if she's ever been back to Mildenhall since, but I think it was the first year we run the Kev Waller meeting, and she was in a perfectly safe spot, but because the driver had got himself where he just planted his foot down. If I'd not grabbed her, she'd have been squashed. But that's the skill set you learn, because when you're on the wall, you might not think something's coming towards you, but it can. And we all know they can climb fences. That's the slight element you've got to think about. They can climb, and the fact that you transfer that set and just been a bit more switched on and aware about what's going on, and that ultimately is, as much as being a clerk is about governance and it's about setting the rules and making sure you guys are doing as you're told and behaving and conveying everything, it's also about looking after those in the middle, because albeit we don't have as many people, I mean, you look at videos from 10, 15, 20 years ago, you had crowds of people on the infield.
Yeah, I was going to say it was I mean, even the crowds on the outside, they were massive. Now they've dwindled down a little bit. Yeah,
I think it's one of them where it's going through it. I don't think COVID helped, if I'm honest. COVID come along, e-sport, don't get me wrong, that every formula tried a version of e-sports, which worked quite well, because it made made it available to people. People knew it were a thing. You then get the more word of mouth. Social media has become a bigger thing now. I think all the promoters, even, I mean, yeah, I'm Speed with Thinker Race, but when you look at the work that's going on from all the promoters, they know that now printing leaflets and sticking posters up is not necessarily going to help you. You've got to go down the line of social media. Using YouTube, I'm seeing more and more people. There you go. Look.
Crew Chief's joined us.
There you go, Crew Chief's here. Yeah, you know, the world's changing, and I think because the world's changing, that younger generation, which are getting exposed now on social media, they're maybe the people that are driving it. They're the people that are going to the mum and dad and going, "Oh, come on, let's go racing this weekend." And it's still affordable. That's the thing. That I think, you know, we had a bit of a conversation about this last week, that you can get a family of, did you say a family of 10?
Something like mum, dad, and up to, was it 12 kids? 10, 12 kids. And was about 30 odd quid.
Can't do that anything else. There's not another...
I got that maths in me. 36 quid.
36 quid.
I was going to say 36 kids is a bit mental if anyone's got that.
Yeah. Wow. But that's the thing, and the other thing as well is, I think when you look back in the past, the stadiums weren't the best. If you look at some of them, I mean, you look at them and think, why would you go?
Stoke. You wash your hands before you go into the toilets.
Well, you know, to be fair, Stoke was where I got my first proper meeting as a start marshal, the first full meeting, and I thought, I mean, we was offered about this actually at Civil War. Me and Carol, who was the clerk of the course, that brought me up there. We laughed at how flimsy that fence was, and you think to yourself, these lot were just palling around like no one's business, and you thought to yourself, is this going to be all right? You know, but that's the thing. You know, the stadium availability has changed. If you look at the stadiums that we've got now, and the facilities they've got, they're no longer just like down and out places anymore. They're actually proper venues.
The proper stadiums.
Yeah.
Especially with the money Dean Woods put into Northampton.
Oh, yeah.
And Rob Speak with Skegness.
Yeah, two perfect examples.
Both stadiums are fantastic places to be in.
Yeah, and every stadium has its own selling point. Every stadium has its strengths and weaknesses. Again, look at Skegness. It's a great all-round stadium. You guys go there quite regularly in the Rebels. But then the V8s go, the National Hot Rods have an annual run out on Good Friday there. They like it. They enjoy it. They think it's a different track to what they normally race on. It's a bit shorter than potentially the other tracks. But then you flip it and you look at other venues like Yarmouth, it has a great summer season because there'll be people that have never seen it before. They'll just see the advertisement of stock car and banger racing and a picture of a smashed up car on the side of something. Great, let's go. And they all sell themselves. Yeah. You know, it's not... I'm quite sure if Dean ever sat in here and had a conversation, he would tell you, you're never going to be a millionaire out of it. I don't think any promoter can turn around and say that. But the fact that they do it for the same reason why we're here, why you race, why I officiate, they do it for the love of the sport. Because if we aren't around, we can't do it. We simply can't enjoy it.
Yeah, especially with Rob as well. You say we went up for the Skeggy treble. On the Friday, we was on the seafront, weren't we? And you got him coming up in his monster truck, driving around with speakers and everything going, and then I think they've got a van now with a massive TV on the back of it, just showing short videos of the bangers going crazy.
I mean, he's got prime spot because Skegness, everyone's there for like a weekend away.
Like you say, the beauty of that, you drive that past a kid, they're nagging their parents to go watch that, and then you get a new fan in, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, Rob Speaks, he's definitely unlocked something good.
I think sometimes what you need to, it's a little bit like Mildenhall. When Dean took Mildenhall on, Mildenhall was struggling, and I don't think a lot of people, there'll be a lot of National Banger fans that might jump on this and go, what do you mean it was struggling? A great banger track. It was, but it was becoming a bit of a one-trick monkey. Dean takes it over with a bit of heat. He's now transformed it. Obviously, we had the devastating fire as well, which pretty much, you know, he could have just given up then. He could have sold it, flattened it, happy days. But Dean wasn't going to ever do that because he sees the value in it. He's rebuilt it. There's more being done over this winter. We haven't been, have we, really, this year? But it's got a new wall. It's now had the grandstand, not the grandstand, but, you know, the bit that had all burnt down. It's all been redone. New track shop going in as well. So all these things are going on, and he doesn't have to. He could have left it and abandoned it, and he hasn't. You know, those meetings could have transferred out and gone anywhere. And he's chose not to, and he's chose to rebuild it. Skegness, like I say, I remember Skegness when it used to be a bit like, we're off to Skegness, great, you know, and it were a bit old worldy, But you now look, race view bar, race controls move, the bridge over the pit lane. I think moving the pit lane gate was a big move.
Yeah,
which
pit
was
gate, because it used to be on turn four for
turn
us
for
guys.
you, yeah. I mean, I remember many a car being rattled in there, and you think to yourself, times progress and all these things have gone on, and it's only improved. It's only improved the venues, and there's more to come. I think everybody's now getting on board this line of, you want people to come, you've got to have the facilities, and I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah, definitely. No one nowadays, when you wants to go to somewhere that's a little bit of a rundown place, and with Dean putting the money in to make it look nice. I mean, yeah, to some people it might just be brickwork and you've just made a toilet block. But looking at the progression from what it was to what it is now, it's bringing them stadiums up to sort of modern day spec, but still keeping an old worldy feel to them.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, since meeting Danny, I've learned so much more. My appreciation now I did a little bit with Star Treks behind the scenes, but not now as much as what I do supporting her dad. And we turn up and we work on, we obviously see the nitty gritty of, the stadium being the track has been raced on, the shells up to the fence, everything's just covered in rubbish. But then to work on the progress of turning it round to making it race ready for you guys. And like I said, last year, you guys saw that when we were finishing off ready just for an iFactor weekend. So it's not only just the stadiums, it's the equipment as well. We don't have a lot of new stuff. It's not like you can just go and buy all the equipment to put a track right. And I'm sure any promoter will tell you, to try and get half the equipment we need, you can't get it. You've got to sort of think on your feet, or you're using older stuff. And in doing that, the ultimate delivery, for any promoter, is that everybody goes, whether you're a racer or a fan or an official, you go and you enjoy your day. Because if you're not enjoying yourself, then you're not winning. No. And that's always been my thing anyway.
Yeah. Going back to having a little bit of passion about the sport, before we properly met you, and when Danny Boy was just watching, he always said about one guy on the back of a pace car that put some proper effort in for the winners. And obviously meeting you, it's when you watch, you do put some hell of passion into it. And some guys are just there waving they're just sort of bored. But you done half put a bit of gusto in, and it sort of G's you up a little bit on the pace car, because you're there driving around wafting your trophy thinking, I don't know who to wave at. But when you're beside you and you're properly giving it, you're thinking, fuck yeah, I want to get involved with this.
It's, for me, my journey with start marshalling more come alive when I joined Speedwith, because there's always the heritage of start marshals. We in the north of England, we had some phenomenal start marshals, but they did it the old school way. I remember watching videos of start marshals walking, almost like, you cross the start marshal, you're not crossing the steward or the clerk here, he's going to have you.
Yeah.
And then walking between the grades and walking them down, and them setting the pace, and then jumping up on the fence, not bothered about the yellow, sorry, we're going to go. And for me, when I moved over to Speedwith, the start marshals there, it's a different sort of level. The way that they present, they present the start marshal as a big part of the meeting. And that's when I started realising, actually, I can be like that, or I can do a bit more. And I started going back and looking at the guys, like say, from the past. And you look at what we all do. And the same with Alan. If you watch Alan now, he's done a couple of more meetings since he was on here. And he's got it now. And he's the same. And he gives it a good go on the back of the pace car now with the winners and stuff. To me, it adds to the show. And the more that you add to the people, the more that you can encourage people to come, the better it is. And especially for you guys. You guys, at the end of the day, put lots of money into it. So that bit of appreciation, not just giving you a trophy and a checker flag, all well done. Actually having a conversation with you and getting to know more of the drivers, it sort of adds a bit for you guys as well, as in a bit of an appreciation for the fact that you've had to travel. I mean, there's no close tracks to where we are for you guys now as per se. So that bit of appreciation of, actually doing a proper presentation, it just, to me, it's just part of what you guys should receive.
It does go a long way, especially for the kid formulas, because, I mean, it's a little bit different when you're sort of adults. You're thinking, do put a lot of time and effort in, and winning's good, but then for the kids, it's like you've won it, and then you're next to the start march. Because when you're younger and you're seeing the people you want to be, sort of when you're older, stood next to them, and then they're putting the effort in, that there's some proper passion in the sport.
The thing as well is, in a lot of ways, we're like terrible salesmen in that, we all want to retire at some point, and if we don't get the youngsters in, and more so more so with the youngsters of today, because like I said earlier on, with health and safety, we can't let them as close to the track as we want. So to show that little bit of something when the track is live, and even though you've got to be switched on. You cannot, I'm not saying that if we're on the back of the car, there is always a risk. You don't know if the car's going to pull out, you don't know if the car's going to break down, which you will never hope, but you're still switched onto it. But by making sure that you guys and the fans know about the meeting and making a point of it, people come back. And I think sometimes, not all tracks can do it. Not all promoters have the privilege of having the pace cars, or may not have confident start marshals that want to jump on the back. Whereas with us, we're sort of just embossed with it. I remember my first ever one at Ipswich, and I wasn't going to go on it because I'm not the most. I come across quite confident, but I'm not the most confident person. And I just remember, can't remember who was stewarding. It might have been Lynn, who used to be a start marshal. So she was like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh no, it's all right. I'm going to the rostrum." No. If you're doing this, in there. And that was it. And you learn, and then people will always give you guys. That's the great thing about this sport. There's no one will it doesn't matter if you're a start marshal, clerk, whatever. Anybody will teach you. That's the great art of it. When I moved to Speedway, there were things that I never knew about national hot rods. And at one point, I was overwhelmed, and I'm stood there thinking, I can't do this job. Just let me go back to Mildenhall. It's stock cars. I know what I'm doing. And people took that on and realised, and then within a few meetings, you start learning, and these people will always help you. And I'm always thankful for that little snippet of information, or that little bit of, well, rather than looking there, look there. And that's what we do now. So when we get new people, or when people progress, we give them that opportunity. And it's not as easy. Sometimes you can just sit there and let it not say a word, and they'll pick it up. And sometimes you just have to give them a little prompt. And especially for the trainees, it's not as easy to see what's going on. So you have to give them that prompt, because again, it's a lot to do. It's a lot to take on. Especially if you've got 45 of you lot bobbling around and you just do not know what's going to happen. You hear Rachel go green and go, and it's like, right, well, this is going to be either 12 laps of bliss, or it's going to be 3 laps of carnage, and we'll be stopping this in a minute. So, that's the other thing about it.
So do you have constant comms with the guys in race control then?
So we have a fair bit of communication. What you guys get, you probably have more comms than us, because obviously while the racing's in progress, and especially for Rebels, and I've stewarded alongside Rachel, and she's a very good example of how to manage a race, but not put. It's carnage in race. It could be absolute carnage in race control. With us going, go yellow, go yellow, go yellow, go yellow. But she's like, no, drivers, just go around on turn 1 with the car parked up. Go yellow, please go, Rachel, please go yellow. Don't. But the way it's managed, especially with the formulas which have become so used to the race receivers, is you can have incident, and you guys just will, don't go near it. It's great. And there's opportunity to recover. Don't get me wrong, there are times where you're just going to have to go yellow, because it's not going to work.
Yeah.
But the communication we get is probably not as much. When you're on the rostrum, depending on, I learnt the era of having a commentator in my ear. So what you guys see on the footage, if you watch any of the other stream channels, normally you've got it live. So while you've got everything going on in the background, you've always got that bit of reassurance that hopefully the commentator is somewhere near the race leader, so you can concentrate on other stuff. And don't get me wrong, there is always a nice reminder when you do some meetings, you don't have that. So you are literally same as you guys, which, it's a nice reminder that you can't have all the luxuries. But like I said earlier, we are so far in front now with, what the guys used to have. And when you look back on some of the older meetings from like the 80s and 90s and stuff, and the very little they had, to compared to what we've got today, it is night and day difference. It doesn't make the job easier. There's a lot more to do now. We've got more flags we have to hand out to people.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So when you go track to track, is the same equipment at each track, obviously, Hednesford, Quarry, Reservoir Place? Is that same equipment there going to be at the Mildenhall, or is it a case where some tracks you've got a guy in your ear, or some tracks you've got to be on the ball?
It varies. It does vary. And again, it's just on what's available at each track, because each track is in a slightly different journey. So as a good example, Northampton, we've got the comms loop, which is wired in. We've also obviously got the direct link with race control in terms of our radios. You go to Mildenhall, their comms link isn't as good because it's wireless. There's no real provision. Well, there wasn't any provision to put a fixed line in. So, but the technology, so it worked in part. But again, after the stadium come back after its rebuild, there was some changes. So last time I was there, it was a bit yes, no, yes, no. It wasn't that reliable. The more established venues, Ipswich, you've got a comms loop. So, and again, that is widened. That's been widened. That probably put in before the stadium was built. To be honest, it's that retro. But yeah, it changes place to place, and then the flags that you use and what you need also vary as well. You don't have like a change of surface flag on shale because that would be completely pointless. But you still have your likes of your technical DQs and all your stuff like that. So it varies depending on what tracks you've got, where you're working, and stuff like that. But on the most, I mean, I'm lucky enough. When I started out, I bought my own kit. I've still got a lot of my original kit because I've looked after it. Don't get me wrong, you still need new bits because it gets old and it wears out.
Yeah.
But yeah, now most tracks we try and, I do help out where I can with the guys to equip them and say, right, this is where we go, or speak to these guys or whatever. And that also helps as well.
With you being on the track then, you said about the yellows and stuff, can any marshal pull a yellow and that just makes it all go yellow? Or is there certain
it varies.
situations?
Every track has a slight variant. And again, it more depends from what I've seen of it. I've only obviously worked with 2 promoters. So when I was with Star Tracks, we used to use what we call the open yellow flag, which is the ORC recognised. There's a problem, you don't throw a yellow, you put the yellow above your head, an open yellow. And that indicates to the clerk there's an issue and you want to call for the stoppage. With Speedway, we do power the marshals to make that call because, again, there is a bit of a delay, and especially if you've got a busy meeting where you've got a lot going on. And again, a good example is with you guys. If you guys all go piling into a bend and the marshals are trying to check on you, it's sometimes easier for them to throw the yellow and seek forgiveness later than what it is, holding a open yellow, because as much as the guys on the outside of Pinnacle, we are as well, because we've got to check on stuff. So it varies place to place. And again, each promotion tries to standardise it as best as they can. And with doing that, it sort of gives the guys that are operating the track in the meeting, they know what they need to do. And again, we have great things, we speak to the driver, drivers are made aware of it. The officials, now with their health and safety, you've got to be very careful on what you tell people. So again, in the staff brief, things are, it's mentioned and how the meeting's going to run. So ultimately then, we're not confusing everybody else. And you do see stuff on social media. People put posts on, that marshal threw a yellow and all this lot. Yeah, but he's in power to throw that yellow. He knows there's a problem that I can't judge. So, yeah, you've got to... Track to track varies. And hopefully, at some point in the future, when the ORC can do it, and again, it's not easy, hopefully it'll all align. And when it does, it'll be even easier for all of us.
Yeah, because obviously as well, there's which some people might not know, if you end up normally in a wall or in an accident, any sort of bumpage, you got your thumbs up, thumbs down system, haven't you? Which obviously most of the time you'll be on either outside or you're inside. And as soon as you're meant to find the nearest one, give them a thumbs up, thumbs down, let them know you're all right before trying to sort anything out. So now I was thinking, if I've give them the thumbs down, they've got to have the power to then throw that.
Yeah. So again, different places do it different ways. And again, every track's slightly unique. You look at Buxton, for example, you don't have marshals on the outside at Buxton. So you are fully reliant on the marshal. So if you're clattered in the wall at 1 and 2, it's a lot more hard work for the guys on the infield there to get you. So again, having that bit of track awareness, we see it as fans. Obviously, I've never driven around Buxton in my life. I mean, it looks absolutely terrifying, if I'm honest. But when you've got that sort of officials knowledge, and don't get me wrong, I don't go to every race meeting and start critiquing promotions because that's just not a way forward. But you look at it and you think to yourself, how it must be so much more difficult than the tracks which have got guys on the outside. Obviously, we're quite lucky. We have guys on the outside at all venues. So, and they are, to be fair with you, I would happily say this, there isn't a bad guy amongst them, because when something goes wrong, they are the first point of call. And normally, if you go over and say, what's the problem, they'll tell you. And that's the biggest part of it. I mean, like you said, it's that little bit, it's the disconnect between the drivers sometimes. Sometimes the drivers just want to get on and get going. They're not bothered about what we're doing. They're like, what's he doing? But yeah, there is that. And 90% of the time, if something's wrong, normally you guys are very, most drivers, if something's wrong and they need it stopping, they will find a way of getting it stopped by a clear thumbs up or just by the marshal's reaction. 90% of it, if we get there and something's wrong and the marshals spot it, it's dealt with. It's not. Mistakes get made. We're all human. That's the element of it. You don't get 100%. There'll be things that are missed, but 90% of that call goes to you guys as the drivers. You know how you feel. It's like if you have a fair size impact against the fence, and I can say with Danny's, that day when the way I met Danny, which she'll come on to in her interview, but I was on the back of a pace car. I didn't have a clear view of how she'd ended up in the fence. I just knew that there was a V8 hot stock in a tangled mess on the fence. So while I'm trying to unharness myself off the back of the pace car, trying to learn a job at the same time, I'm relying on that marshal to make that judgment, which he did. And Danny was somewhere there, I think, wasn't he, dear? Remember it? I don't know.
I don't remember what happened.
Yeah. But the lad next to who sort of was a part of the incident, he'd recognised the problem and he'd indicated, when I went to him because he called for the yellow, he turned around and said to me, "I'm fine, mate, I've called it for Danny." And like I say, there is that thing amongst the drivers, as much as you're all hard racers, you all actually respect each other as well in the aspect of, I would hope nobody goes out there to hurt anybody because that'd just take the fun out of it.
Yeah, massively. It's a good job you brought Danny up. So, obviously, with you being start marshal and you can bring out your black flag when people are being naughty. Do you think you sometimes might get a little bit of a finger pointing if, let's say, Danny's done a hit on someone, and in your guy's eye it wasn't a bad hit, but then the guy who she's hit,
Yeah.
Is there just a strict thing of like, yes, she's involved with me as in partner or family or friend, that it's just the racing?
Danny will tell you quite offhand, we have an unwritten rule between us that I'll never steward her because that's not, to me, that's quite governing. If something did come up, not that I've never been in that boat, and hopefully we never will be. When I clark, and I've clarked a handful of times with you racing, haven't I? She knows that when she rolls out onto that track, she is just 137553. She knows, and I'm quite disciplined with that. And don't get me wrong, she's rolled up after a race where she's had an absolute nightmare with the car. Me doing my COC duties, and I will wander over and make sure she's okay. Her dad has done the same. When if we're looking after things at Northampton, he will always go over and check. That people will look at that and go, "Oh, that's biasness." Not really. No. I'm not having no government on the effect of it. I mean, when she got put in, you got put in at the European, didn't you, at Northampton? It was by chance that her dad was on the same bed. The clerk of the course, again, who Danny knows incredibly well, was the clerk at that end of the track. I were on the rostrum. There was nothing I could do. And even though your brain's telling you, I need to jump down to make sure she's all right, as daft as it was, Sarge did an absolute brilliant one and just walked to past the starter's rostrum. And you said you was okay. And you just take 30 seconds, when the gap comes, I just took 30 seconds to make sure you was all right, didn't I? And that's the thing, I hope that people don't look at stuff like that, because I think that would be highly unfair. There's no gain for me if she does a bad hit on somebody. Well, if it gets picked up, I can't stand there and defend her. The rule book is the rule book. If someone put a bad hit on Danny, how would I feel? I wouldn't be right happy. But I can't let that. I can't walk into the stewards box and go put them on a ban because that's my Danny. I'm not having that. And I'm nearly as bad as half the fans that don't like an half bad hit on the favourite driver. So you can't do. For me, it doesn't cross my mind if I'm honest. And like you say, the great thing is, Danny obviously moves to Rebels this year, which is, the V8 community have been great with her while she's been racing with them. There's been none of that, and I don't. Yeah, you see it in certain formulas that they all just start gunning after each other and trying to, do daft stuff. But thankfully, the formulas that we're involved with, on the most part, you don't see it. No. You see the odd bit of trickery going on. You see the odd. You think to yourself, really, but it don't gain. No, it's terrible.
No, I know what you're saying, because you got with the 1300s I watched episode on YouTube. You get some wars, don't you?
You do, yeah. You get
You
that.
get the wars where they do go out there, and their intention ain't winning that race. Their
I can see where you're going with this. Yeah.
Their intention is to go out there and stop someone else's race, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean,
So there'll be plenty of times you've probably seen that and gone, that's not just a racing hit.
yeah, we it was more so during the Tebbs Smith sort of era. We had a couple at Northampton which weren't particularly clever, and you think I was clerking a particular meeting, and I thought to myself, please just don't not here. And it did, and it kicked off a little bit, and it resulted in one of them being trailered for the meeting because it was over the top and it was daft. And you look at it and you think to yourself, but what are you gaining? That's how I look at it. I look at it on the rest. I look at it the other way. I think, how much money do you pay to race your cars? To do half a race, to then be dragged up to the stewards box, to get earache, to potentially get a letter, and then you're not going to race again for a while. And that's just my thing of it. I mean, you know, I couldn't do it. I know for a fact if someone was nagging at me, always on my back, I would be like, right, what is your problem? I don't get it. Because I'm not, well, but probably Danny will tell you the same, I'm not that sort of mindset inclined. I mean, maybe at one point, you know, and I'm going out with you guys later this year, so maybe if one of you lot rattle me around, we might see if that changes. But that's the thing, isn't it? You see it and you have to act professional in it, and you do get hot heads. Don't get me wrong. I've had some over the time as a clerk. You have people which get a bit hot headed, and you're there and you try to deal with it, but at the same time you think to yourself, you're not making my life any easier. You know, you're just making it worse for yourself. But, yeah.
Madness.
Yeah. With you saying that, then that you might be jumping in a rebel. Well, you are jumping in.
I am. It's official.
Later this year with us. Do you think that when you get a marshal that starts fully fresh to a marshal that's maybe had a bit of race experience, you find that the one that's had a bit of race experience can maybe use the red a bit more when it comes to certain situations, like with the driver's hits or?
Yes. We've had in my time involved, you tend to find that the drivers which have been out there, and again, another good example is Alan. So Alan had raced odds and sods. He then went out in Danny's V8, and in the first heat, he turned it round. He got a bit throttle happy. He turned it. And in turning it, he turned around and said, in the first 3 seconds of facing the wrong way with cars hurtling towards him, his appreciation for a driver going thumbs down, not wanting to sit there, changed.
Yeah.
And you can imagine that. So the drivers which do come through, and there's a couple of guys that have gone from bangers into us, they are the quickest reacting guys. If they're on the wall, they see it from such a different perspective to somebody who is a fan, who loves his racing and knows a rule book. They understand the other elements of it. And when that person has those elements, they are an asset. And to be honest with you, to me, it's like a recycle program. More guys that we could get doing that. You know, not everybody wants to do it. I appreciate some people want to race, retire. And I get that. And I fully respect that. And the driver, you know, be on the safe side of things with a beer. Don't blame them. You know, some guys don't. Some guys don't want to finish. Yeah. So, and those guys, if we could recycle more of those guys into the sport, whether it's doing the technical stuff or where it's helping out behind the scenes, because every single official is critical. You know, you take one official out of the list, whether it's your Rachels or your Petes, through to the promoters or anything. Without them, we can't enjoy what we do. That's the top and bottom of it.
No, because it goes from being enjoyable to then just being a chaotic rush to, well,
yeah.
There's no time to enjoy it because I've got to be here, I've got to be there.
Yeah.
Got to have eyes in the back of my head.
Well, this is it. Well, yeah, you're good at doing that, though. We've seen it many a time.
I go down the straight backwards 4 times and do forwards.
Where's he gone? He's out next race. He's fine. He's just putting an engine in that Rebel. Okay.
So we brought Stocks Comms earlier, and you're a fantastic sponsor of our little podcast. So what brought that around?
So there's sort of a running story. I learned to program radios when I was on the circuits because the circuits are even further behind than us. So some places still on race phones. So the only way you ever found out what was going on...
Race phones?
Race phones. Yeah. One way... Well, the one way... No, there were 2 way. Essentially, I'm trying to think of a good example. So Cadwell Park, perfect example. So each marshal point had a phone in there. So if you ever called any or needed to call anything in, you had to literally dial I think it was, you had to press a number for race control. You had to phone somebody.
My head's just gone. Sorry, but my head's just gone for them cars that have got in-car phones.
No,
just
we didn't even have that. But no, so you had race phones, but there were certain points around the track, and obviously you have safety cars and various things, but that had to have radio. So what people started doing was programming scanners. So they only would work one way. So if race control called something, you would hear it, because for the likes of Cadwell, which only really did club circuits, for them to call out a safety car, normally the first time that you would hear it is when your phone would ring and the post chief would pick the phone up and be like, "Safety car balls and flags, lad. We're going safety car." Oh, right, okay. And then it would rush. So people started listening into them. So that's how I started. And then I learned a little bit more about it. And I am self-taught. You know, I've learned by fiddling, messing, breaking things and going, right, don't do that again, try again. And then as things changed in the oval racing world, obviously race receivers sort of come in quite gradually. But in coming in quite gradually, we had the unfortunate incident at Birmingham, which changed everything for oval racing. Safety, which was quite high priority, become ultimate priority. Race receivers being one of them. Some formulas was already messing with them and had them in play. I think Briscoe Formula 1 had 4 drivers on them, maybe not, I don't know. But there was people trialling them, and I was still messing around with them. But I'd also moved in back to the world of oval. And then over time, I just kept messing with it. And originally, when COVID hit, I'd developed a way of doing it, and I had a methodology, but I had so much other things going on because I didn't stop work during COVID. I was still flat out because I was a key worker. Never got back to it. And then when things started coming on, other companies had already sort of stolen it. And I was like, well, I've missed that now. Yeah. What's brought it on more so in the last year is, as an official, you know, you want to give every driver a chance. It's not fair that you guys prep, spend money, get yourselves there to get out on track, for the steward to be shouting and screaming down the radio when you just blasely not even a clue that you've been called up. And something that I kept finding was that the receivers which are out there, they're great pieces of kit, and I'm not setting Stockscoms up to bash anybody, but there were just more things what could be done. So with me still doing what I was doing and also programming official ones for our guys, I started looking around and working with the guys that I already work with and said, well, look, could you help me with this idea? And they was like, yeah, why not? And a bit more discovery, a bit of messing around. Like I say, it's been a good year messing around. I've chucked a few at you guys. We've put others with other people, not really telling them what was going on, just here, put that in, plug it in, see how it goes. And the feedback I received was it was a lot clearer. People like because they're not the same. They're a different model to what's already out there. So by doing all that, it sort of just come together. And sort of like back end of last year, I said to Danny, I said, I want to have a go at this. It's never going to make me millions and millions of pounds because that's not the objective. My objective is that
you want to give everyone a fair chance.
I want to give everybody a fair chance. That kind-hearted official inside of me is like, no, I don't want to be the horrible clerk that comes up to you and says, sorry, get off, your radio's not working, because you guys then don't know, because some guys will literally buy them, put them on charge, go to a race meeting, turn it on, and it'll work. Other guys, they don't know what's going on with
if you've got the little yellow ones, they take a battery away.
Yeah. So that's what it's about. And with the other part of it, with the official side, again, because I've helped out officials in the past, there's a lot of guys that don't realise that technology's moved on. Some of them are still on the scanners that I used to do on the circuits. They're still using them. And don't get me wrong, they're strong and reliable, but the batteries must be half dead in them by now. And if anything ever did go wrong, you'd always hope that the kit was there to back you. That's how I look at it. I look at that as the same, like a helmet. You know, all right, not all formulas run them. Well, 90% of the formulas run them. But for you guys to have the right equipment on a race day is as critical as you guys prepping your car. So that's the method behind it. You know, it's not there to bash anybody else out there. There's been a lot of people behind the scenes. You guys, as I've already mentioned, Danny's been a part of it. There's loads of people that have helped out. So for me to say that I'm part of it, because I'm only part of it, sort of the forward end of it, just, you know, that's what it's there for. That's its business objective, if you like.
And going back to quality as well, there's been a few times where Rachel spoke out over the radio. It's been clear, and then it's just dropped off towards the end. And it's not something where you can go, what was that, Rachel? Just say it again.
No.
So you've only really got that one shot to hear it.
Yeah.
And when we were saying about the little yellow ones,
Yeah.
the eat battery life, and you could get through a couple of yellows, and then towards the end you're sort of losing them, and it's like, And I remember Mildenhall for the Rebels when we first started, we had the little yellow ones.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it was, but they just started to like static and buzz, and it was to the point where it's like getting on the track, I can't hear myself think, off.
Yeah.
And then you sort of going back to what it was when you didn't have them.
This is it. I mean, I've not yet. Also, I'll get my experience later this year. I've also been on the other side where I've stewarded, and again, for me, when I steward, it's about giving you guys the best opportunity, because as much as stoppages look great for the fans, it doesn't really help us as a promotion, especially when you're up against it. So having reliable information is 90% of what you guys need, because you've got enough on, especially when I watch you guys race, and the best way to describe Rebels racing is chaotic when there's a pack of you. The last thing that you need is to be going along the pack splits and, oh, hello, there we go, that's a perfect hit, So to give everybody that fair opportunity, and that was what was part of it. And the more and more people sort of knew I did little bits for the officials, and they would come to me with various different receivers and go, it was great for the first one. The second one, it was like, I might as well have been tuned into FM radio. I can't get anything. What's going on? And it's an ever developing thing. It's never going to be perfect, because we don't have a perfect world. And I'm sure when you go over to America and you look at the likes of the Chili Bowl and things like that, I'm sure that they will have their own niggles, unless you're willing to pay professional money out and have all the fancy equipment around. We've got to work with what we've got, and thankfully I've been very lucky to work with manufacturers that have got that same passion. It's a small dint in what they do, because we're just a small little island with some people that go around in circles. But to them, because there's people that know how to do it, and they want to do it right for you guys, for them it's just like, that's fine, we'll help you out. So yeah, it's not designed to, it's not a money making racket for me forever. It's there to support the guys. Obviously I'm supporting you guys, the hire car this year. I'm supporting Danny, and there's a few more that we'll announce on the Facebook page in due time. But yeah, that's what it's there for.
But then that brings it back into your personal passion with it, with the whole stock car marshalling. You've gone from being trackside to starting them, and now you're on the side of, well, I want to make sure every driver's got the information they need to keep safe on the track.
That's it. I think my thing with stock cars is that I'm a fan. I'm a fan at heart, and to do this job, whether you're a starter, clerk, steward, whether you're one of the girls like what Danny used to do, where she used to be a part of the admin team, you have got to be a fan. If you're not a fan, you're not doing it for the right reasons. That's a personal opinion. But for me, it's not nice when you have to go up to a driver and tell them you've got to kick them off because the race receiver's not working, or you try and get it working for them and it won't go, and you don't have the information. The equipment that we've brought into our portfolio, for the officials, it shows you what's going on, and for the drivers, it shows you what's going on. So if you're sort of sat there thinking, I would have expected something by now, there's ways, without going into it on here, there's ways that you can check yourself, and you can look at it and go, they've moved. They'll have been told to move, and I'm not receiving. And it gives you that bit of self-talk before a clerk of the course has to come along and go, sorry, mate, infield.
Yeah, especially when they're like at Buxton and they're like, number 13, give us a wave. And then you just see random people sticking around out, and you're like, hang on a second, I can't hear anything.
Yeah.
And then you're fumbling about and...
Definitely the worst one at Buxton, though, is when you get the beep. It's only that track I get it at as well. You get like a boop, boop. It's so loud, because you have it loud, because you can sometimes barely hear them.
Yeah.
And then that comes through and it's ear piercing.
Every track's slightly different, because they've all had different setups and different people have been involved over the time. And again, I think that's part of our cliche line. It's built and developed by racers and officials, for racers and officials, because I've had the experience on the rostrum, and it happened last year. It happened at the Best in Britain meeting. Radios that I've had for 5+ years decided to let themselves go on the last race of the year, halfway through a national hot rod Best in Britain. I've never ever been ambushed on a rostrum before. I don't want to be ambushed on a rostrum before, but I'm there and I'm literally having my radio with my headset stripped off me, and I'm trying to do my job, trying to remain professional. And then you think to yourself, well, what's happened? That's never happened before. And when I went back to race control, Danny had both radios in her hand and she went, it's dead. It didn't even tell me. So I would have never have known until that happened. I'd have kept doing it. And that's been the great thing with doing the trials that we've done with the equipment what we're making available. We've put them through the test. They've been drowned in the middle of a Bag of World final, which you would have better been having jet skis. They've been in the sauna in heat of the summer when they've been thrown around in a tractor when I've gone out and helped her dad with the track. So with the equipment that's there, and that's the official stuff, the race receiver stuff, I mean, we stuck them in with you guys and left them in the most exposed position ever, covered in mud, shale, I mean, everything you can imagine, and literally unplugged them, checked them, nothing wrong with them. They're absolutely fine. And I mean, we haven't run one over yet. That could be the next destructive test maybe, but you know, that probably... I knew you'd offer to do that. That's the first one that comes straight out when we get the Rebel back out. But yeah, it's there for everybody. Yeah. That's essentially what I think I want to get across. The other thing as well, and Danny will tell you, I'm not the biggest person of social media, which has been one of the delays. I'd rather just do it for a website which is managed, because then I know what I've got going and people get, you know, I think my method is keep it simple, stupid. Yeah. And then everybody knows what you've got. So I can literally come to you guys and go, right, channel 1's your Rebel channel, channel 2's your ORC channel. I've had some before where they've bought radios. They've bought them from the same place, same formula, and you go to the first one, it's on channel 1. You go to the next one, it's on channel 3. It's like, why? Why are we making life hard for ourselves? But like I say, I'm not here to bash other people. That's not what I'm about. You know, I think what we all do in the background is what pushes it forward, and it makes it better for everybody.
Massively. So where would we go to buy a race radio from you? So
at the minute, we're just setting up the websites, which will be stockscoms.co.uk. The website is in reserve at the moment. That's why it's not live. There's details about how it's come about. There's also details about the ranges, so we've obviously been putting a lot of that on Facebook already. Danny's been working hard in the background. I've got to credit her because she spent so much time on this in the scenes, because we both work full-time, we both have full-time jobs. I mean, I travel a little bit for my job, so for me to sit down for long enough just to get everything together and say, right, do this for me. So it's a combined effort. When the website goes live, there's a web store there which will have all the information you need. The packages are set up as a buy, so you don't need to worry about getting other stuff. You can literally buy a package, and then it just asks you for so if you're not a standard ORCI formula, for example, it'll ask you, what are you? And again, we're not going to make it complicated. We're not asking for frequencies. We just want your channel number, and we can work it from there. They are initially, we're not doing it for the fans and stuff, because for me, I'm still not, as an official, as somebody who works on the other side of the fence, I'm sure I've been the wrong side of a bad call when something's come across on one of these radios. So for me, it's about looking after you guys, it's about looking after our guys. And same for the officials. So there are some promotions I don't have details for, but again, I'm willing to work with any promotion, any club, any association. At the end of the day, we're all here for the same reason. We're all here for the love of stock car racing. And it's not a one-man band effort to try and make everybody happy, but to me, it's about making something work for everybody. And that's what it's about. So through the website, and then we've already got in the background how they'll be posted out and everything like that. It's all trackable, so we know it'll land to your front door. And again, once it's all fully set up, there's also a support there, so there'll be a support number there as well. So if something does go wrong on a race day, yes, of course, we might be racing, we might be at a meeting or whatever, but where we can support you, we will. Because again, the last thing you want is it come out the box, you turn it on and it's like, oh, hang on, this isn't right. Everything's tested as well. I've got a radio set to one side, which is solely for testing, and that's a stale set thing where I test everything, not to destruction, but it's all tested back and forth.
Put through its paces.
It's put through its paces. The other flexibility with what I do as well is you can ask for headphones, but for me, there's nothing more comfortable than buying your own headphones and wearing your own.
Yeah.
I know that there's brands out there which will sell you a set of headphones. Don't get me wrong, I use them when I'm clarking on the middle. I don't want me head cannons on. I use them, and I know they're good and reliable, but I don't know if I would be comfortable going out wearing a helmet and a balaclava and stuff, I don't know if I'd be comfortable wearing them. Whereas I know I've got a good set at home, which are all right, which I know will be all, suitable for what I want. So that was the other design behind it. And there's been other people get involved as well. Other people have come up already with suggestions, and we're looking at them, and we give feedback to those people that come to us as well, which is quite good. So again, it's only ever going to grow and develop for you guys. Ultimately, it's for you. It's not. I'm just the person who's going to try and provide it as best as we can anyway.
One of the best features you've got is it's all USB-C.
Yeah.
So rather than going, where's that one random cable that'll fit?
Yeah, I mean, for the ones that we're using USB-C, they don't even come with a charger dock. You don't even need to worry about it. I could not even supply USB-C. Everybody now is just about USB-C. Which again is more useful for you guys when you're out racing, because it's easier to find somewhere to plug a USB in than try to find mains power.
Yeah.
Again, it was another sort of one of the cheeky ideas of going for that, sitting down with the manufacturer and going, can we have this? There was another one which I really wanted to use, but we just couldn't come to the negotiation of opening the channels for it, whereas this we could. So the USB-C is a big part of it. One of the two officials packages has also got that facility. The other one doesn't, but again, because of that the one that is there, I have been told today it's got another 5 years of life, so you will get a docking port with it, but the docking port's included and it's set up, and they are. I've had mine 5 years and it's still bulletproof, and that's the one that has never failed me. We want the one that won't flat either. So that one is the one that we test everything against, and like I say, that's served circuits, it's served independent stuff, and it's now it now serves me on race meetings. So, people will always turn around and say, "Oh, there might be something better out there," which there might be. I'm not going around and testing everybody's. I know the little yellow ones. Won't bother with them, but and I think there's a big grey breeze blocky thing going around at the moment. I won't use one of them either. But I'm not here to bash.
No.
That's what it's about.
No, it's just progression. Like for us guys, the USB-C is such a big thing. But no, it's good. We'll stick a link into the video of your Facebook, so people can come and keep an eye on your updates.
Yeah, like I say, there's more to come. We was hoping to go January for launch, but with the website and then busy work schedules, like I say, it's not my full-time job. So you've got that. We've had a fairly busy off season with various events that we've been involved with. So as much as I'd like to say it's been my main priority, getting all the stuff in place has been a priority. But just getting the odd little bits and pieces done, and then, like I say, rather than sort of half-heartedly handing stuff to people, I'd rather it be right, because then at the end of the day, it's a bit of customer reassurance, and it feels right. I'd hate to think that I give somebody some equipment, they get to the first meeting of the year and it's dead, or it doesn't work, because then I've ruined their weekend or their race day. That's not good enough for me.
No, like you say, a little bit more time goes a long way with this sort of stuff.
Oh, definitely, I agree with that.
So, what would you say to anyone thinking about starting on the non-racing surface of an oval track?
Get out there. That's what I would say, honestly. Brilliant community behind the scenes, and I think I could say that for just about any promoter. Every promoter is different. There's perks to all of them. There's disadvantages to others. But even if you're just somebody who's sat on the outside at the moment, just who goes every weekend and just keeps thinking, I don't know what to do. Go on the track's websites, have a look. There's always a link on most of them to say join the team. There's normally either an email or a question thing, or just a few questions, and come and get involved. You're not going to get chucked straight into the middle as a clerk of the course. We're not that horrible to people. You can even do meetings where you're shadowing people. There is a structure to it as well. So, and it's not just what I do. It's not just me waving a flag around on a rostrum or on the middle or playing with the pace cars or whatever. The whole raft of roles be in the background. Pit marshals, critical to us. Scrutiny is really critical to us. The guys and girls that run the admin side for us, critical. Without them, drivers don't get through the gate, people don't come through the turnstiles. So every role is critical. Doesn't matter what you're doing. So yeah, find your nearest track, see who promotes it, jump on board. Maybe shouldn't say this, non-ORC promotions, but same for them. They're only scrambling like we are. They need guys as well. They're not as cautious as us, they're not as safety led, but they don't, well, I won't say they don't have to be, they don't need to be, they're not under the scrutiny we are. But get out there, enjoy it. Honestly, it is a rewarding experience, and I've been doing it just over 10 years now. And don't get me wrong, there are meetings where I think, why am I doing this? But for the 3 meetings a year that I think that, compared to the other 50 that I probably do over the course of a year, I can live with that. I can live with the headache.
You guys really are the lifeline of racing behind the scenes, really are. But I think we're going to call it there.
Yeah.
So that was a fantastic little delve into the behind the scenes of what goes on with oval racing and stocks comms, because it's good to hear all the production behind the product.
Yeah. No, thank you very much for having me. Much appreciated.
Beautiful. Right, so as usual, we'll do the boring YouTubey stuff. Like, comment, subscribe. It really does help us in the long run. Long run, not long run. But no, I'm AJ.
I'm Danny.
And thank you for having us. We'll see you on the next one.